Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
All right. Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to our Batch 9 Energy Expo. My name is Wade Bitaraf. I'm the founder of the energy program here at Plug and Play. It's been great to see the idea of open innovation across the energy value chain in different geographies in my past 5 years. Here, since the inception of our program, we've accelerated around 150 startups, produced more than 30 pilots, and invested in about 10 of them, and launched our practice in Japan, Europe, and most recently in Alberta, Canada. Today is a very special day, not just because 16 of our amazing startups in the latest energy cohort are graduating, but because after more than 18 months of virtual events, we finally have some of our audience live here with us in our Sunnyvale headquarters. Thank you for being here with me and with the team right now. I wanted to first and foremost thank our team who are here in the back, Arsh, Junie, Alberto, Natalie, and everyone else, Mary, Payal, Tiff, Angie, Giannis, everyone who helped us out during these past few months. That's been most rewarding for me, and it's also been really challenging during the pandemic. On behalf of our team, we wanted to congratulate the startups that made it through COVID and are graduating this week from the IoT, from the real estate. Today's the energy day, and we have travel and hospitality later this week. So we wanted to also thank our VC partners, our mentors, and as well as all of our corporate partners for their support and sponsorship. And we're so excited to be able to see you, hopefully live in person. During the event today, we'll hear from our keynote speaker, who's responsible for launching the venture arming of one of the largest utilities in Europe, the 10 commandments of corporate innovation and corporate venture capital. Then we have an expert panel discussion about the new business models that are evolving around distributed energy resources, new technologies that are driven by applications of solar and storage combined. And lastly, we're so excited to hear from the CEO of one of our corporate partners who will be receiving the Corporate Innovation Award of the summit from our president, Neda Amidi, for their agility, for their embracing of startup culture to transform their businesses. So we're so happy to kick off this session. During the presentations, please make sure to participate in the polls. That's the whole purpose of this event, to connect with the entrepreneurs. If you want to get an intro to the founders and dive deeper into their solutions, please stay muted and use the Q&A box in the Zoom for any questions. All right, as a little bit about the program and the history of it, as you may heard in other sessions during the summit, in the past year or so, Plug and Play expanded operations in new locations like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, India, South Africa, and a few other locations. Our portfolio produced more than 10 new unicorns, totaling 26 companies that are valued at over $1 billion. Super excited about the growth that we've seen over COVID. We're also named as the 5th most impactful early stage VC in the climate tech space, which is why we wanted to highlight some of the startups from our previous programs that are doing really well. First one company that is featured here is Silvera, a plug and play portfolio company that's developing machine learning based tools that are intended to track the performance of carbon offsets. They participated in our batch 9 and have raised capital from some of the world-class investors globally. Second one is another portfolio company, a plug-and-play Litmus, which is an edge computing platform provider for industrial IoT, which participated in our 7th batch and were introduced to more than 60 of their potential corporate partners. They've seen an accelerated business development period while engaging in our ecosystem. Hive Power is a startup developing a turnkey solution to create management and optimization of local energy communities. They went through our batch 8 and secured a pilot project with our Italian corporate partner, A2A. If you want to learn a little bit more about what we're doing in Italy, in Japan, and a few other locations, our team is here, and we're happy to tell you a little bit more about the engagement model in some of these places. A few more companies that we were excited about their growth in our batch 7. First one company was called Ideate, a software as a service platform that enables energy companies to engage and retain their customers by helping them better manage their energy usage. They were in our batch 7, and they were invested by our corporate partner, Invent Capital, which is the corporate venture arm of the Chess Group, one of the largest utilities in Europe. HeyCharge, they secured their first commercial client, our corporate partner, Energie Steiermark, out of Austria. They piloted them, and they're building infrastructure for the next 10 million electric vehicles in Europe. And then lastly, the new portfolio of our partner, Wind Ventures, of the Chilean energy company Copec, that invested in 75F, an IoT-powered smart building solutions delivering comfort and energy efficiency in the large commercial buildings. So we're so excited for the climate tech's market accelerating pace. However, it's still nowhere near enough to avoid a climate change catastrophe globally. Experts say that we must invest an estimated $4 trillion into the clean energy transition infrastructure every year. And I emphasize that's $4,000 billion, and we invested only $800 billion, which needs to scale up around 5 times. Venture capital investments, however, into climate tech is doubling year over year. We invested $32 billion last year, being 2021, but the funding gap is not closing fast enough. So the innovators need to not only gain access to more capital, but more types of financing to make their hardware technology commercially available. And that's why we're so excited for some of the outcomes of the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference that ended yesterday after 2 weeks of negotiations with some of the world leaders. So we wanted to share a few of these with you today, some of the outcomes of the COP26. Our team was excited for hosting a series of events here with some of the world leading investors. Cool, more than 190 countries, banks, and organizations agreed to phase out coal power and end support for new coal power plants, except for a last-minute clause that China and India added that converted to a phase down from a phase out. We hope to see that kind of continue to grow, but we'll see how that goes. Deforestation, more than 100 countries promised to end deforestation by 2030. This was the first major deal at the climate summit, and the pledge is being backed with almost $14 billion of public and private funds, which should make a big difference this time around. Methane, a very important topic for the oil and gas industry value chain. More than 100 nations representing 2/3 of the global economy pledged to reduce methane emissions by at least 30% by 2030. We'll hopefully see more restricted oil and gas regulations on that front. Banks, 450 of the world's largest bank and asset managers, which is a staggering number of $130 trillion, pledged to meet net zero by 2050. Unfortunately, the Chinese bank weren't included in this. They're primarily financing the coal power plants. Cars, 24 countries pledged to ensure all new cars and van sales are zero-emission vehicles by 2040 in all the markets and support the right policy for it to adopt faster. Climate financing, developed nations, the richer countries, pledged to give the poor countries $100 billion every year till 2050. The poorest countries, as you may know, are usually least responsible or prepared for climate change and its implications. So hopefully we'll see a more more restricted plan to pay these poorer countries. As far as the farming concern, 45 government pledged to protect nature and overhaul farming. So overall, we saw a modest policy process in climate tech, but huge investment opportunities in the future. So those are some of the updates of the market. There's so much going on, but today I'm very thrilled to have Susana with us as our keynote speaker. Ms. Quintana Plaza was a member of Galp's board of directors, one of the largest utilities in Portugal. She were, among other things, responsible for decentralized energy business from zero. In 2012, she launched the venture capital activities for E.ON, one of the largest European energy companies, and she became the global senior vice president of technology and innovation there, and moved on to Siemens Next 47 as a partner thereafter. Susana, we're so excited to have you here today. Thank you, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Please help me welcome virtually Susana.
Thank you, Wade. Thank you for inviting me to this event. I think what I would like to do today is start maybe sharing the experience that I have had out of now more than 10 years working in corporate venture, in corporate innovation, and launching new businesses for large corporations. And what I would like maybe to go through today is to tell you about what are my 10 commandments about innovation and corporate venture, and the rules that I follow that have made several of the ventures that I have been working with and the organizations successful. If we can go to the next slide, and maybe share a little bit of my background so you get a little bit of the context of how I ended up here. So I'm an aerospace engineer by education. I studied at the University of Washington in Seattle. And at that time, in the 1990s, Seattle was even hotter than Silicon Valley is today. Microsoft was no longer a startup, but a very admired company at that time. Amazon was a startup, Expedia was a startup, Adobe was a startup. I remember some of my friends telling me that they were gonna go and work for this startup called Amazon. So I was working at Boeing, great company, very nice company, but where nothing absolutely ever changes. And at the other side of the town, there were all these innovators who were really changing the world. And I decided aviation was important. And this is not what I wanted to be. So I left Boeing, I went to Harvard to do my MBA, and I moved back to Europe. Long story short, even though I was looking for innovation, I ended up working for the largest utility at that point in Europe. That was E.ON. To be honest, a great company. I really enjoyed working for E.ON immensely. And at that time was the most valued company in all Europe. At that time was 100 billion. This is early 2000s. Yeah, early 2000. No, 2000. No, early 2010 or so, 2009. But it was a company that was zero innovative. More than that, the CEO told me at some point, my mentor taught me that as utility, the last thing that you want to be is innovative. But what happened? E.ON had 3 cash cows, and the 3 cash cows were dead or in life support in a question of a couple of years. All the nuclear power plants were shut down, or in the phase out, not shut down, but on the phase out. All the long-term contracts that they had with Russia were underwater, and conventional generation was not running because there were too many renewables. So then they finally decided to create this new department called Technology and Innovation. First time that this company had an innovation department. And I have to say I had some outstanding great bosses there that support me a lot. And one of the first things that I did is create the venture activities. Why? And you will hear this over and over again when I talk about my 10 commandments. And it's because startups have the innovation, have the product, have the agility, have the ability to deliver. But we corporates have the access to the market. So I told my bosses, guys, I don't know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years from now. But there's all these startups today that have products that we can use or we can offer our customers, and they need access to the market. So let's create a win-win situation. So we were, I would say, very successful. This is the time where clean tech crashed. And I used to brag that we were the one of the few profitable venture activities in clean tech around the world. And we make some bets in some great companies, and some of them IPO. Some of them are leaders still in the market, like Autogrid, like Thermondo, like Vigil. That was one company of the portfolio of Plug and Play. And this team today is Future Energy Ventures, emerged with the RWE team. And many people there are still people that I used to work with, and I'm very proud to have created part of this team at some point. When my boss left, they make me Senior Vice President of Technology and Innovation. At my surprise, to be very honest, because in a German utility, you don't have, at that time, young woman with a thick accent running an organization as a Senior Vice President. But I think they did it because they knew we could deliver on innovation, and we were really creating a transformation. Then I went to Siemens, and in my last role at Galp, I built the renewable business for Galp. Starting when I arrived, there were 2 people and 18 megas. When I left in July, we have 4.5 gigas in the US, in Brazil, in Portugal, in Spain. We're also entering the Italian market, and more than 60 people in the team growing. Build a decentralized energy business from scratch, literally from PowerPoint. In 18 months, they were making 5 million revenues, and it was doubling month by month or more. And one project that I feel very proud of, and is lithium processing. All of you have been hearing about gigafactories, but today lithium is almost exclusively processed in China and not in the best environmental conditions. So there is a huge opportunity for Europe and the US to start creating these processing facilities. So Portugal was in a special situation because it was we have some of the best lithium reserves of Europe. Galp, there's the mid-sized company I was working with in oil and gas, had refineries, had experience with raw materials. So I launched this business. Everything going amazing, having the time of my life. But in February, they bring a new CEO that had been 40 years working in upstream oil and gas. And he decided that I was not the type of leader he wanted for his organization, despite despite what I had put together. But to be honest, this is something that happens very, very, very often in large conservative organizations. Innovation teams are by definition different. They challenge the status quo, and many CEOs do not feel comfortable with that, especially the more conservative ones. The good thing about it today is that you're going to hear the full unedited version about what I think about corporate innovation and corporate venture without any editing from the communications team. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you share some of my views. So can we go to the 10 commandments? There we go. So first one, and you will hear me saying this and this over again. Do not spend time building what others have already built. Even if you have the smartest team in the world, you're surrounded by bureaucracy. You're surrounded by reporting, by rules, by hiring. Of course, I'm talking here about corporate venture, not the startups. So even if you have the best team, you will not be able to develop as fast as the startups. On top of that, these startups that you're working with have spent years, lots of hours testing, experimenting, refining their product, talking to customers, talking to many industry experts. So there's a lot of things behind that product that you don't see that is going to make it very difficult for you to replicate. So I'm saying this because at least twice I had 2 instances where the CEO of the company decided that they were going to duplicate one of the or 2 of the startups that we have invested on. And I can tell you at that time I was really, really mad. But looking back, it was a stupid thing to be mad. 6 years later, nobody has duplicated anything, nor they will ever will. So my point is, these startups have the technology, have the agility, have the product, have the innovation, have the hours that they have been thinking about the product, have everything in place to deliver. And you have the access to the market. So work with them, work with companies like Plug and Play, work with venture capital investors. Try to analyze who the best ones in the market are and work with them, collaborate with them to create a win-win situation. And that way you'll be faster to market. That way everybody wins. Let me go to the second one. I already touched on it. focus on market access. Again, the startup has the innovation, but you have the access to the market. You have the brand, you have the credibility. So many of you have heard the Valley of Death, where the startup has proven the product, has a few customers, but fails to scale. If the corporate venture teams can help build a bridge for those startups, you will make them immensely successful and you will make yourself immensely successful. So I'll tell you the story, for example, of O-Power. O-Power was one company that we invested a few years back now. I don't even remember. I think it was 2012. O-Power was one of the few IPOs that happened in clean tech in the last decade. And they were focused on customer engagement, on a customer engagement platform for utilities. So we helped O-Power come into the UK market. We gave them access to 5 million customers. And when O-Power went to IPO, the story of internationalization and the story of being not only in the US, but in the Europe as well and in the UK, make it very successful for us. For them. For us, it was even more successful. I promise you, before O-Power, nobody had pronounced the words customer engagement at E.ON before. After O-Power, customer engagement was one of the key pillars of the strategy of E.ON. Everybody understood what is the value of starting having a better relationship with the customers, increasing NPS score, being more conscious about energy efficiency. So it was a huge success. So focus on that. Focus on helping those startups grow and grow with them. Work with the scale-ups. Why do I say that? I say that because of commandment number 2, because what you have is access to the market. So if you start working with the startups too early and the builds are not built yet, the product is not there yet, you're not going to add a lot of value, and instead you're going to have the commercial and engineering teams of your companies trying to tell the startup what to do. And from my experience, they are never better than the startups to know what to do. So when you come in, when you can really help them scale, that is when you can add the most value and when the teams are more mature and more secure about what they need to do. Second, because of your colleagues. So your colleagues, if you show them a cute team with a prototype, they will not take you serious. If you show them a company that has a manufacturing facility, if you show them a company that is running operations in an area, where they are present today, you will really scare them out. So the more mature the company, the more possibility you have to help them and to get the commitment from your colleagues in commercial teams to help them go to market. And finally, because maybe you, yes, but not me, and I think in general, corporates, we are not very good at identifying very good entrepreneurial teams. This is what the Plug and Play and other venture firms do very, very well. They know what it takes to create a company from scratch. And I will rely on them to identify who the market winners are going to be for you. And I will spend my time learning with them what it takes, learning with them what will make these companies grow, learning what other corporates are doing, and learning what other startups are doing in order to understand where you want to go next in innovation in your company. Next one, I call it do not kill by pilot. This is something we call at Galp, dead by pilot. What do I mean with that? You should work with startups, with early stage startups. As Wade just said, there's a lot of value in pilots. So you give the startups the credibility and a little bit, the name in order and encouragement to continue, and they learn from actual market access. What do I kill by pilots? Do a pilot, run the pilot. At the end of the pilot, decide if you want to continue with this startup or you don't want to continue. But do not do pilot by pilot. I see corporations, now we do a pilot on this, 6 months on this. Now we do a pilot on that, 6 months of that. Now we do a pilot on that, 1 year on that. These startups have very, very limited resources. And you cannot, if you're not serious about them, I think it's better to deliver the news early and tell them, look, thank you, we did the pilot, it was not what it was expected, or we don't think we can help you to market, and let them move on to the next company that is serious about them. But please do not just continue doing pilot after pilot. And second, also on that topic is, I'm sure all of your commercial and engineering teams are always trying to get you to get some exclusivity from the startups. if it's a very early stage startup, if you really are helping them enter a market, you may be doing some type of limited time and very limited geography exclusivity. But if you do more than that, you will be killing the startup. So for a pilot, you will be restricting the access to the market. You will be restricting who they can work with. And that's the biggest leverage that a startup has, the market that they can access. So please, if you do some type of exclusivity, have it very, very limited. And keep in mind that you are not going to win if this startup doesn't work and the startup is not going to win either. Now, focus on quick wins. This is something that to me is very important, and you have to be very pragmatic on innovation. Do not focus, and this is both directed to the startups and this is directed to the corporates, on technologies that will take years and years to come. The market does not have patience for that. Being too early in the market is as bad as being too late, or even worse, I would say, in some instances. So corporations don't have patience for it. By the time this technology becomes commercial, you will no longer be in the job from years before. So start focusing on things that are in the market here today, and you have the possibility to scale today and to grow today. There's millions of low-hanging fruits at corporations, lots of processes, lots of products, lots of ways of working that have never been changed. Focus on what those are and start delivering. That will give you what I call license to operate. That will show to the organization you can deliver, you bring value, your innovation matters, and that way they will let you do more crazy things later on, more disruptive things, more late things. But please start focusing on the early quick wins with those teams that are willing to work with you, and do not worry about what is going to happen in 5 to 10 years from now, because neither you know nor any one of us know. Now we'll go to one a little bit controversial, and is learn, experiment, do not ideate. What do I mean with this? I have seen so many companies and so many startups working in a closed room on their own product, on their own world. I'll give you the example of a company I'm not going to mention now. They had a very, very innovative patent in an area of energy, super creative. And I was sitting in the board of this company, and after a year, they were in product development phase 20 or 25 or whatever. So it was like the 20th generation of the product. They had sold 6 of the products. So finally one day I said, guys, will you stop developing the product further? And would you please sit down, try to think about the market you're addressing, try to think about the pain point of the market you're addressing. Try to find out the 8 people who bought your product, why they bought it. The 200 who didn't, why they didn't. And stop creating the next feature of something that nobody wants to buy. Go out there, execute, experiment, learn, take the learnings, and go back and do it all again if you need to do it. But stop locking yourself in a lab, creating a product nobody wants. So funny enough, this company started looking outside their little cave, and now they're quite successful. And the problem they had is they were focusing on the wrong market. They were focusing on a market where there was no longer, let's say, waste or a use for the product. So they changed markets, and since then they have been quite successful. So please do not sit in your little ivory tower trying to realize what the perfect solution is. Go out there and experiment and execute. The startups that make it are not the ones with the best ideas, are those ones that really execute. Now, one thing that is going to be also controversial, this is more directed to corporates and a little bit contradicting what I just said, and corporations spend a lot of time on these hackathons, on this gathering of ideas, on these big events where they collect great ideas from everyone. And when I was at E.ON, to be honest, those things used to I was not a big fan of those things because I never seen a great idea. I never seen a great product coming out of these hackathons or ideation sessions. But there is something I learned since then. And it is that being effective does not mean being efficient. So I was being efficient. I was allocating everything to where I thought there was going to be an output. But by doing that, I was a little bit alienating my colleagues, kind of telling them innovation is for the startups, it's for these Silicon Valley guys, it's not for you guys. And I wasn't helping myself. I needed my colleagues in order to give me access to their markets. So I have learned that efficiency is not effectiveness. Go for effectiveness. Do these big events. Make sure that you bring the buy-in of the organization and that you make everybody feel in your corporation that they can be also an innovator. And finally, maybe before I go to my last two, is you need an independent budget and you need independent FTEs. Very simple. I'm sure many of you corporates have already experienced that. Every time the company cuts on budgets, that they do it every couple of years, if the innovation budget is with a specific business, the first thing that goes away is the innovation budget, and then everything else. If you have a central budget, you will have to do a 5, 10%, 20% cut, but it's actually not a bad thing because it makes you focus, but it will not make innovation disappear. Same thing with the FTEs. If they belong to the business, automatically they will be withdrawn and taken into operations or get rid of them. So you need to ring-fence these budgets. And then maybe the last two things are two things that every CEO I have worked with, no matter how smart and successful they were, they always make these two mistakes, and these two things puzzle the hell out of me, to be very honest. First one, when a big corporation finally buys a startup or creates a joint venture with a startup or creates a new business, the first question the CEO asks you is, when are you going to integrate this company in the corporation? And my point is, why would I want to integrate the 21st century into the 20th century? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't we let this team grow? Shouldn't we let this team succeed? You bought them or you hook up with them for a reason, right? Because they had something you didn't have. So why are you trying to kill what they have and bring them backwards to where your organization that is from the last century was working? Let this team succeed. And once they're successful, the old business will be moved to the new business, but not the other way around. And still, I have not seen a single CEO that understands this. First obsession is integration, and I never understood why. And last but not least, this is also something that every CEO has told me when I start working on innovation. They tell me, Susana, your job is change management. And I have to hold myself not to start cracking up in their faces. And like, excuse me, Susana and her 20, 30, 40, 100 people team are supposed to be changing the culture and the way your company works. While you, my colleagues, all the other executives, the management continue doing the same thing, investing in the same areas, with the same process, with the same people. And I am in charge of changing the company. No, sorry, honey. Change management is exactly about that. Change the management. So my advice to all these corporate innovators is your job is to plant the seeds and to plant the innovation. So when the change management really happens in the company, you can succeed and you can create a completely new, different company. So I'll tell you one thing that the current CEO of E.ON said a long time ago when we started the venture capital activities. He said, the venture team of this company has done more to change the strategy of this company than any strategy team in the history of E.ON. And E.ON is a very different company than it is today. There has been change management in the last year or so, but I have to say those seeds that we planted, that pragmatism, that way to approach the market, made us successful and is making E.ON successful over the long run. So I hope you guys understand or understood or agree with my commandments. If you have a different view, I would love to hear it. But especially I want to give my biggest regards and my biggest admiration to the startups that are participating today in the summit. I have the utmost admiration for you guys and all entrepreneurs. And who knows, wait, maybe I ask you to put me in one next year or the year after. Thank you.
Wonderful. We would love to see you here, Susanna, in our Sunnyvale headquarters soon. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. It certainly is a non-trivial task to align the different stakeholders and match them when they have two different considerations. They speak different language, they move at a different speed. So it's really hard. And thank you for sharing your experience, a really good squeeze of the learnings and takeaways from your time at E.ON and Galp. Before introducing our expert panel about new business models that are evolving from the distributed energy resources, I would love to invite our CEO, Saeed Amidi, who is here among our audience and our colleagues that are at the summit today. Saeed's been traveling a lot lately, and he actually just got back here from Canada, announcing our expansion to Alberta. So thank you so much, Saeed, for joining us today. Please come on the stage for additional remarks.
Thank you so much, Wade. Appreciate it. This was not planned, but I love to welcome everybody. And I really enjoyed Susanna's comment. You know, if I can share a little story with you, about 6 years ago, we had a visit from very important group from Germany, specifically the Mercedes executive board and the top management of Mercedes globally. And a lot of the comments that Susanna said is absolutely true, because the whole auto industry is moving so fast that no single corporation can keep up. You know, in fact, Ola, the CEO of Mercedes, has said on stage many times, they like to embrace change and embrace technology from startups, that they can combine it with their internal great engineering to make new products and services. And again, as Susanna said, it's really, really hard to change a big organization. I just came back from Calgary in Alberta, Canada, announcing our clean resources vertical over there, as well as digital health platform, as well as the AI initiative we're going to launch in Calgary and Edmonton. And it was really cool. They gave me a white cowboy hat, and you know, they consider themselves the Texas of Canada. And it was wonderful meeting number of energy companies there. And again, I think all of these great organization with great history need to move forward to clean resources, clean energy, and new models of business. You know, just a lot of our corporate partners like Osaka Gas and others, they are mentioning that, you know, the electricity companies are moving into providing other sources of energy to the client, and everything is happening with deregulation. So it's more important than ever to be very agile, to be very quick. Doesn't matter what industry you're in. It may be the energy industry, the automotive industry. You know, in fact, in our platform in Stuttgart, which is an automotive mobility platform, we have partners like British Petroleum who have joined the platform to see the future of the auto industry. And also, I'm very proud to say we just launched a hydrogen accelerator with the help of Shell and City of Hamburg in Hamburg. Again, join us in this road to, you know, finding new sources, cleaner sources of energy. And we hope that you will enjoy the pitches of our startups, which will go right after me. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Thank you. There we go, Wade.
Thank you so much, Saeed. Fantastic. It's great to have you with us here today. And before the startup presentations, we have an expert panel discussion moderated by Mr. Steve Chauncey, the president of Menlo Energy Economics. and some of the experts from the Victoria University, Extensible Energy CEO, as well as the energy aggregation provider of California, DER program manager. Without further ado, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Srishansi for the panel discussion that will be followed by the startup presentations right after.
Okay, well, welcome to this particular event on Plug and Play. My name is Feridun Sio-Shansi. I'm the founder and president of Menlo Energy Economics, a consulting firm in the Bay Area. I have had the pleasure of working with Plug and Play for a number of live events, but I understand that this is being pre-recorded. And the topic today is an intriguing one in the electricity sector. And we chose the topic of free electricity to get everyone's attention. It's, as the speakers will explain, advances in technology and software and intelligence, putting it all together, has brought us to the verge of a future where some customers, not all, that meet certain criteria can perhaps get so-called free electricity from their distribution company, or in California it might be one of the community choice aggregators. In Australia, maybe a different model. By the way, we do have a speaker from Australia, which is a very interesting country to watch in the distributed energy space. I just heard on the news that Australia has hit 3 million solar roofs. That's a country of about 24.5 million people. So it's quite an amazing feat that Australia is ahead of any other country in terms of per capita distributed solar generation. Anyway, for the panel today, I'm the moderator. I'm going to say hopefully as little as possible. So I will introduce the three speakers so you know who they are and why we have chosen to include them on the program. The first speaker is Jim Bach, who is the DER, that is Distributed Energy Resources Program Manager at MCE. MCE is, if you're not familiar, it used to be called Marine Clean Energy. Actually, it's the company that delivers the juice to my house. So Jim is provider of electricity to my city, for that matter. Jim is involved in a number of very interesting projects. I don't think he has enough time to get into details, but he will give you a flavor of what this concept of free electricity in the California context may look like. The second speaker is John Powers, and he's the CEO and founder of Extensible Energy, a startup who's been around and successfully expanding and growing as I follow developments on that front. And John will tell us his company is a software company that brings intelligence to behind the meter space. So allows people like Jim Bach to do the wonderful things that they're trying to do. Without the intelligence and the software, it's not possible to do any of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So I think John will bring that flavor to what happens with aggregation of information and intelligence. Finally, we have Bruce Mountain, who is he is the head of the Victoria Energy Policy Center at Victoria University or University of Victoria, I'm not sure, in Melbourne, Australia. And he is an academic, I might say, and a researcher who follows developments in electricity retailing in the competitive markets, which are very much flourishing in Australia, but have not delivered as much innovation and new products and services as many people had hoped. So for those of you who are not familiar with why we chose this particular topic, and how this fits into the sustainability, which is the theme of the event today, is that very interesting things are happening in the electricity sector. And everybody knows that utilities are moving towards more renewable on large scale. But we're not going to talk about that dimension today. We're going to talk about so-called behind the meter. In other words, what individual consumers can do on their rooftop with storage devices in their garage, with an electric vehicle in the driveway, and with intelligence, which brings all of that together and enables a company such as MCE to aggregate and optimize consumption, generation, and storage of electricity. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim to talk to us for about 5 minutes or so, and maybe give a flavor of what he does at MCE.
Thanks, Faridun. I appreciate that. Hi, everyone. I'd like to just give a little bit of background on MCE. It's some of you may not be familiar with community choice aggregation, but we are a public agency. We're located in Northern California in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we serve 37 member communities in 4 counties in the Bay Area: Marin, Contra Costa, Solano, and Napa counties. So we are governed by public officials from all of those agencies. So we focus on local control, local resources, local benefits. And we serve roughly 540,000 accounts, representing over 1 million customers in this region, including Faridun. And we have about 5,550 gigawatt hours of annual energy sales, and about 1,200 megawatt peak load. So we have significant loads. As a CCA, we are providing just the energy portion for customers. So we don't own any transmission distribution assets. So we do not have a lot of capital. So we're our balance sheet is very focused on purchase power. We don't have a lot of debt. And so distributed energy resources really features heavily into our future plans. As I mentioned, we do a lot of purchase power agreements. We procure energy. The majority of it is renewable, clean energy resources, which is our focus and one of our main purposes for being, so that we can provide cleaner energy at cheaper costs to customers that would normally be customers of Pacific Gas and Electric Company. But because we are just providing that energy portion, we are also responsible for providing resource adequacy, which in California nomenclature is capacity or demand. So we have obligations to provide a certain amount of capacity or resource adequacy, as well as supplying the energy to our customers. So for us, behind the meter resources is a way of taking control of our own destiny by empowering customers, encouraging customers to procure distributed resources, whether it's solar plus energy storage, electric vehicles, any host of controllable devices behind the meter. We're able to control our load shape and shift our loads around to the times when it's least expensive for us to provide energy. That helps us keep our energy costs low for all of our customers. So this is something that we are just now getting into. We have a number of programs that we're getting ready to launch or are in the middle of right now. The marquee program, if you will, is our energy storage program, where we're providing incentives for customers in exchange for allowing MCE to directly control energy storage installed with existing or new solar. So we have a distributed energy management resources system, DERMS platform, that will monitor and directly control these behind-the-meter distributed energy storage devices. And in that way, we can allow them to charge from the sun, from the PV systems, so that we're not wasting that energy out onto the grid when we have excess supply of solar in California at the moment. And then we discharge those batteries between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., which is our peak for California. And in that way, we are avoiding that most expensive costs for the year. But we have other plans that we want to maximize the value, get more revenue out of these assets, and provide more savings and more incentive for customers for doing so. And ultimately, the goal is to try and get more behind the meter resources, such as electric vehicles, heat pump hot water heaters, so that we can add to that capacity. Again, it's a matter of really controlling our destiny, using all of this embedded resources in our customers already. And that helps us, and it helps them, and it helps us reach our carbon reduction goals as well. We have a couple other programs that I won't get into it a lot, but one of them is a Peak Flex Market, which is a marketplace, if you will, for providers of any type. But we pay per kilowatt of peak capacity reduced. This is outside of the independent system operator, California independent system operator. So it's out of market, and it's reducing our loads, as are all of our programs. We're not playing in the wholesale market. We're actually just controlling our loads and adjusting our future forecast by being able to control these loads and have all of that data in our DERMS platform. So in a nutshell, that's where MC is. We see this as a huge part of our future. Right now, we're starting off small, but we see this as a way of being able to grow over time more assets into these various platforms so that we can reduce the amount of power we procure.
Excellent, and right on time. So let's switch over to John Powers from Extensible Energy now.
Thanks so much, Feridun. Yeah, I'm John Powers. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Extensible Energy. We're a software startup in energy here in Oakland, California. This is not my first rodeo. I've been in the energy business for maybe the last 30 plus years, about half that time as a consultant and half as a software entrepreneur. We provide load flexibility software to energy suppliers and their commercial customers. That helps our commercial customers save money, make money, and meet their corporate sustainability goals by shifting their electricity usage from minute to minute and hour to hour in a way that can minimize cost and carbon while maintaining comfort and control. So that's a mouthful. We regard load flexibility software as a platform. Okay, it can support many different kinds of applications. For the customer, that could be something as simple as demand charge management or time of use arbitrage. Those are kind of California or US ideas for how to beat the fixed electricity tariff that most retail commercial customers are on. It can also just drive energy savings by eliminating some of the foolish mistakes that most buildings make. But it can also lead directly to carbon emissions reduction by shifting from dirty times to clean times in their energy usage. And it can help the customer get more control of their own building environment. But from the supplier side, which is probably of greater interest to the audience here today, the same exact platform can be used for old school demand response. I'm one of the early innovators in demand response. I'm on the board of the Peak Load Management Alliance. I still work with lots of folks in demand response, but it can be used for efficient procurement, as Jim was talking about. If you can shift more energy into the cheaper, cleaner times of the day, you can match the energy usage with the cheaper procurement processes you're going through. And it can help, as we're finding in California, migrate towards during the energy transition, we're going to see a move more towards real-time pricing, more towards direct market participation. Again, as Jim was talking about, directly by commercial customers. So the ability to get a building under greater control and more responsive to signals from the grid about what the prices and carbon intensity of the grid is from minute to minute and hour to hour, that's the direction that the building management and the grid are both headed in. This is a convergence of two things that Feridun talked about in the introduction. would have been impossible 10 years ago to have the sensor networks and cloud computing platforms and IoT device protocols that are necessary to bring all this off. So we're converging the built environment world with the grid, because buildings and the grid are really all part of the same electrical system. So as we move from a grid that is mostly just meat load by throwing more dinosaur juice on the fire to a grid where we have non-dispatchable solar and wind resources as the leading provider, you have to make the other side of the grid more flexible. I'm a big fan of batteries. I drive a battery to work every day, but there's not enough batteries in the world to balance the amount of renewable resource that we're bringing onto the grid. We have to also make the load side of the grid more flexible, and that's what we do. We've done some of this with some suppliers recently. We did a pilot project with Southern California Edison to demonstrate the shared value of sort of the customer values stack that I talked about with the supplier value. So half the time we ran the building like the customer was just reducing demand charges, half the time we ran the building as though there were a control signal coming in from Southern Cal Edison to meet their procurement needs. We did another pilot with Silicon Valley Clean Energy, another CCA that does not provide power to my house, although Jim does. We worked with them on a pilot project with some schools in Silicon Valley to show the value for combined resiliency and bill savings by using this same load flexibility platform. So I'll just leave it there. I'm sure we'll get into some more.
Okay, thank you, John. That was very informative. We hopefully will have a few minutes for Q&A, but before turning it over to Professor Bruce Mountain, I guess the message that I should add, and maybe this is what Bruce will expand, is it seems to me that as this transition accelerates, and we're just at the end of the Glasgow COP26, where hopefully some ambitious targets will be agreed upon, everybody agrees that the cost of generating kilowatt hours from renewables is declining from solar and wind and other resources. At the same time, as John pointed out, the value of having flexible demand goes up faster than the cost of renewables is declining. So the combination of the fact that kilowatt hours are getting cheap, but they're not flexible, they come and go according to when the sun is shining and when the wind is blowing, makes flexibility on the demand side highly valuable. And perhaps this is a good place for Bruce to jump in and tell us what's going on in his neck of the world, where 3 million solar homes are already generating a lot of distributed solar energy.
Excellent. Thank you for the intro, and very nice, Jim and John, to hear your stories and hear what's going on in your part of the world. Let me first give you a bit of background on the Australian electricity system and rooftop solar uptake. And then what I really want to talk about is a new deal that I'm seeing in the market that I think is going to take the Australian market by storm. And I think will come to the US in due course. A bit of context, we got 3 million solar homes with rooftop solar. That's about 1 in 3 at least of the eligible housing capacity, which is mainly owned homes. Rented homes have much less solar for various reasons that we know and love. And in some states of Australia, some regions, roughly 1 in 2 homes has solar. Typically, the solar system exports about 50 to 60% of its energy production. So the other half to a third is used by the home. We also have lots of solar uptake in businesses and in farms. Those markets have been growing very, very strongly too. Why has this happened? Essentially, high power prices in the early years, but not now, lots of subsidy, but that died away pretty quickly. And generally, good sun, and a green consciousness amongst the population, I think, has played a factor, most notably because our government has dragged its heels interrupting Skype call, on change in the market. So for all of these reasons, we've seen a massive uptake of solar, and batteries haven't taken off in such a big way yet, but they're on the cusp as functionality and cost has come down. What I'm keen to talk about here is a build, own, operate, transfer model in the retail market. Just a quick introductory comment or two on the retail market. We have a proper electricity retail market in the sense that customers can completely choose who they buy their electricity from. For my household supply, I can choose one of 30 retailers that in total, when I checked the market yesterday, offering 348 different offers to me. So I can choose amongst those, and I can switch very easily. Switching cost is easy. So it is a deregulated, open market. As was said earlier in the opening comments, it perhaps hasn't worked as well as some might have hoped, but at least I can choose. And one of the options I can choose now, or can shortly, it hasn't been introduced in my region yet, but has in others, is a solar plus battery package, a build, own, operate, transfer package, as I call it, which I think is just a fascinating deal. Essentially, the deal is I will buy electricity at the regulated default rate, which is not the cheapest offer in the market, but it's a reasonable offer. In the usual way, the retailer will install battery and solar on my premises and will own and operate and maintain it for the next 7 years. They will use the battery and solar to meet probably 90% of the typical household's energy demand. They'll dispatch the battery to sell into the wholesale market, where we have 5-minute prices, which can be extremely high. And so it has a value in that flexibility, and also will be used to avoid me buying from the grid during the peak period, so storing my surplus solar. They can do this deal for me. I'll buy electricity at the default rate, and after 7 years, the battery and solar is mine to keep. When I saw this offer actually come onto the market, it blew my brain. Here is a $15,000 install software package that I pay effectively nothing for. The typical household will be paying electricity prices at close to the default rate. Others will be paying more. In fact, every time we analyze the market, we find many are paying more than the default rate. So they can pay less than the default rate, get their power in the usual way, get a retailer to install, operate, maintain, do everything on the solar battery package. And after 7 years, it's the households to keep. I think this is the next major turbo charging of distributed storage and solar uptake. We've got 1 in 3, as I say, batteries are relatively slow, but these sorts of packages indicate now that the value of flexibility to the retailer, the value of self-supply through the battery and solar on the household premises is now so valuable in the market, and its costs have got to the point where a retailer can profitably install all this, set out the capital, pay the installer, own, operate, and maintain, and get their money back after 7 years, such that they're happy to walk away, leaving the package with the customer. So this is the latest Australian innovation. Perhaps I'll leave it there, other than by noting very briefly that I engage quite frequently on discussions in the US on solar uptake, and it feels so much like Australia with a 4 to 5 year lag. The same lobbying, the same issues, the same concerns. Perhaps I can give you some peace of mind that the future is glorious. The more we distribute as quickly as we can and store and produce locally, upside for just about everyone, perhaps excepting the big producers who will have no option but to join the party. So thank you.
Excellent, excellent, very good. I'm thrilled. I think, as Bruce mentioned, one option, which is somebody puts everything on the roof and the garage and takes care of it. Another option, which maybe Jim and John can discuss, is I understand that there are some options where you invest in the gadgets, but you get free electricity. One of the options that I think I saw on, I think it's Osgrid, was making that kind of an offer, that if you have a solar and battery and you allow us to remotely manage it and control it, you can have all the electricity you want for free. So whether you get the gadgets for free and pay slightly for the juice, or you invest in the gadgets and you get free juice. I think the point is that Bruce just highlighted is the value of flexibility is now reached a point where it, the idea of free electricity or close to free is a reality. Now we are obviously on a short, like a 3-minute or so time, little less than I was hoped for. So let me turn it over to Jim, who is actually doing some of these projects. And Jim, do you have a project similar to what Bruce just mentioned that is essentially a free, somebody installs free gadgets on your house? And
yeah, our main program is that the customer is owning the system from day one, and we're providing upfront incentives. So there will be gap payments to reduce the capital costs, plus we're providing monthly bill credits. So the system isn't entirely free, but what's driving it in California is wildfires. A lot of it is resiliency based, and customers are really wanting that resiliency in order to be able to sustain power during these planned public safety power shutoffs, which is when PG&E shuts the power off to prevent wildfires from trees impacting lines and so forth. So they're getting these additional benefits. They own the system. We're paying to actually use their system for residential customers for 5 years, for non-residential customers 7 years. We have a pilot program that we're hoping that will get completely funded by the California Energy Commission, where the city has homes that they're putting all of these controllable devices in that will then go to the customer. They will own those devices when they move in, and we're looking at other facilities there, and we'll be doing some in-market participation using dispatching software for the wholesale market as well as out-of-market type activities. So at this point, it's not entirely free, but it enables our customers to get energy storage and the resiliency benefits along with the monthly bill savings that we're doing with the energy arbitrage for them on their behalf to make this cost affordable for them. So it goes a long way towards addressing multiple needs of the customer and MNCE. So we're sharing in our cost and benefits of this program. And as I said, we're just launching this. We hope to have our DERMS platform launched within the next 2 weeks. And we're targeting 15 megawatt hours for this part of the program, ultimately 75 megawatt hours and beyond at that point. We're trying to get as many behind the meter customers as possible, but the program will evolve when we see the benefits of this accrue to MCE, and we're going to continue to refine that over time. So we could get to something that's even more lucrative for customers.
John, in the remaining minute or so, having heard the other two speakers talk about these interesting ideas, what do you think is going to happen in the next 10 years or less?
So certainly we're a technology provider. We play in all of the markets that you're talking about. And I was struck by Bruce's comment that what's driving the free aspect of this is that the flexible resources can be bid directly into real world markets that have variable prices. This is the thing that's going to break everything wide open. The ability of folks behind the meter to participate in the benefits of load flexibility as opposed to feeling constrained by fixed utility tariffs. There's been a lot of condescension by regulators to customers, saying customers are too dumb to understand variable pricing. That's nonsense. And software that automates your response to variable pricing is what breaks this market wide open. So in California, there are many hours where the price of electricity is literally negative. We're paying our neighboring states to haul the extra electrons away because we have so much surplus electricity during certain hours in certain seasons. There's no reason that couldn't be turned into an offer for load flexibility behind the meter for retail customers. And we're working towards that. It's a project that Lawrence Berkeley Lab is running called CalFlex Hub. You can look it up at calflexhub.org. We're part of that, and that's going to show how real-time prices can be transmitted to end customers so that they can benefit from the inherently flexible loads that they have behind the meter.
Thank you. And 30 seconds or so left. Bruce, can you give us some words of wisdom as where you see all of this hitting?
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch the flexibility debate turn into real actions in the market, turn into both customers being flexible and making that happen, and storage solutions. It's delightful to see, after so many years of debate, often esoteric, these innovations happening and customers getting the opportunity to really engage. I get so excited about it. It's moved out of academic hand-waving discussion into the real world, and it's coming. And so very happy days, happy days.
Excellent.
Happy days. I want to thank Plug and Play because this is a hub of innovation here in the Bay Area, and exposing these kinds of concepts to their audience is key because we need all hands on deck for the energy transition that's underway now.
Excellent. Thank you, John, for that. I think we're short of time. Unfortunately, it's a topic, obviously, the four of us are interested in, but this is all we can do in the amount of time that was given to us. So back to Plug and Play. Thank you all for listening and joining and speaking and sharing your ideas with us. Bye now.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for doing, Jim, John, and everyone. This was a great and informative discussion. We appreciate your participation and your support over the years, and we look forward to seeing you here in our Sunnyvale headquarters. I'd like to introduce my colleague, Alberto Pascal, who is our Venture Associate in the Energy Program on the Ventures team, to come on stage and help moderate the startup presentations moving forward. Hey, Alberto.
Thank you, Wade, for the intro, and a big and warm thank you to all of our panelists and Susana for giving us such valuable insights across this green energy revolution. Hello, everyone. Good evening to our European friends, and good morning and afternoon for those of you dialing in from different parts of North and South America. My name is Alberto, and I'm on the Ventures team here for Energy, leading our activities in the energy space. As Wade mentioned, these past few months have been loaded with great news across climate, from the weekly announcements related to corporate net zero pledges to all the different headlines out of this year's COP26 event. Overall, it's a great time to be and work on reversing climate change. We're excited to host another edition of our Winter Summit featuring some amazing companies that have gone through our current energy winter batch. As you may know, the energy industry is a very special one with longer times to market, but with usually larger outcomes. Our corporate clients have chosen roughly 16 companies that were part of this year's energy batch that represent some of the trends that we've been seeing at Plug and Play across our corporate partner tech interests. After every 4 startups, we'll be launching a poll, which you should be able to see on screen. And if you're interested in meeting or connecting with any of these startups, you can fill in the poll and we will facilitate these introductions. Now, without further ado, our first bucket of startups is going to be focused around hydrogen and alternative fuels. Our first company presenting today is Versogen, which is producing green hydrogen at scale, reliably and affordably using anion exchange membrane technology. Let's welcome them on stage.
Good morning, I'm Santiago Rojas Carbonell, Chief Operating Officer and co-founder at Versogen. Hydrogen demand is projected to increase to 2050. This as it helps to decarbonize several industrial sectors as well as transportation. The problem with green hydrogen at this moment is the high cost for it to be widely adopted. That's where Versogen value proposition comes into play. By introducing our revolutionary and patented anion exchange membrane, you can obtain a system that operates with membrane in alkaline conditions, allowing you to have operation that accommodates the variability of renewable energy, that doesn't require any scarce materials such as iridium, that can operate with high current densities, allowing you for a small footprint and lower amount of construction materials, as well as generating pressurized hydrogen, which is desired if you want to integrate it into chemical processes or into pipelines. We're not the only anion exchange membrane in the market, but based on these 5 very important criteria, we're the best positioned to develop electrolyzers from them. Our monomers, which are the basic building blocks of our polymer, are commercially available. We have already figured out how to make the synthesis at very large scale. At the moment, we are doing it at 2.5 kilograms per batch. We have figured out also then to turn these polymers into membranes in a roll-to-roll high-speed production line, which leads to a low cost that we can already provide to our larger customers after negotiating a supply agreement. Additionally, our membrane has a very high mechanical strength, which is desired to generate pressurized hydrogen and introduce it into production lines. We will continue selling our revolutionary anion exchange membranes while we develop our stacks. These stacks then will be integrated into electrolysis system by system integrators that will then sell to energy companies. Initially, we see the market for all refineries. You can consider the stack as the heart of the electrolysis system. We already have over 60 customers all around the world and generated substantial revenue that has demonstrated that our membrane can perform the way it needs to perform. The traction to date, we have raised $5.8 million that has enabled us to grow operations in people. We're raising a $10 million a round that will allow us to generate our 5 megawatt stack by the end of 2023, as well as expand our polymer production capacity. We are a close knit of entrepreneurs with a strong technical background in the area that has allowed us to integrate these materials very quickly and take them to market. Please join us at Versogen producing green hydrogen at scale, reliably and affordably. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Santiago. It's great to see that our friends at Versogen were backed by our friends at Third Derivative out of Rocky Mountain Institute and New Energy Nexus. Our next company, 1S1 Energy, was founded in 2019, and they're developing a breakthrough PEM stack that provides superior performance and durability at a levelized cost of hydrogen production below $1.5 per kilogram. Let's welcome them on stage.
Our story starts 7 years ago with a conversation about catalysts for splitting water into hydrogen and oxygen. That conversation turned our attention to making green hydrogen as efficiently as possible. In thinking about this problem, we quickly realized that it involves solving material science issues, designing new durable materials that can help split water in an economically viable way, and incorporating them into a product within 10 years. Finally, in December of 2019, we decided that it was the right time to build a water electrolysis company. I'm Daniel Sobek, CEO of 1S1 Energy. I am an entrepreneur with a broad engineering education from MIT. Prior to 1S1, I was Chief Commercial Officer at Kernel, a brain interface company founded with $100 million. After incorporation, we quickly put together a small team to advance material development. We spent 2020 formulating new materials and developing 3 collaborations. We also opened a subsidiary in Portugal and applied to Europe's Important Projects of Common European Interest, in short, IPCEI, on hydrogen. 2021 has been a great year for us. In May, we received our first external funding from a group of family offices and closed a seed round in September with an important steel company as lead, CSN. At the same time, Portugal pre-notified us that we're one of 3 projects selected for the first wave of their IPCEI, opening the possibility of receiving up to 46 million euros in funding. Based on an internal analysis, we decided proton exchange membrane, PEM technology, has the best fundamentals to produce hydrogen at a cost of less than $1.5 per kilogram. Our materials technology roadmap solves many of the inherent problems of current PEMs. It delivers new acid group chemistries for ion exchange, combined with backbone materials that are non-toxic, recyclable, and that operate at elevated temperatures. Down the line, we also intend to formulate new catalysts using more abundant elements that are non-platinum group metals. As you can imagine, a final approval of our IPCI project will impact our business strategy in a significant way. Under that scenario, we will have 300 megawatts of manufacturing capacity by 2025, and an IPO the following year will help us expand this capacity to gigascale. We plan to capture early revenue through the out-licensing of our technology for fuel cell applications. And our 1 megawatt modules will be compatible with integration with distributed and large centralized settings. I have prior experience taking deep tech to commercialization, and I'm confident we can reach gigascale production and massive adoption before the end of the decade. Thanks.
Thanks, Daniel. Wonderful. So our last startup before the first poll break is Bloomberg Renewables. Swiss-based Bloom is the first company actually to be able to convert inedible bio-based carbons to petroleum alternatives and petroleum analogs with exceptional efficiency. They've been backed by Breakthrough Energy Ventures, European arm. So let's hear more about what they have to offer.
Hello, everyone. It's really a great pleasure to be here and to have the opportunity to share our vision towards a greener future. And at Bloom, we want to make biomass a true alternative to petroleum because petroleum is just everywhere around us. Not only the fuels we use for transportation or for energy, but also in most of the products around us. Plastics, cosmetics, textiles, paintings, most of these products are made from fossil fuels. So all these industries are urgently looking for sustainable alternatives. But unfortunately, today, most of the processes are inefficient. But at Bloom, we can make all these products from biomass using efficient and sustainable processes to deliver products which are both cost competitive and with high performance. So this is basically what we are doing, turning on the left from biomass, and this can be residues from the forestry, from the agriculture, or from the food industry, and then using our patented processes. We managed to crack down this biomass, and we go all the way to these building blocks you can see in the middle here, which are named lignin, hemicellulose, and cellulose. And these three building blocks are produced with high yields and very high efficiency and high purity. And once we have this key building block available, the only thing we have left to do is to do some product development to make all the products you can see on the right. And I'm going to focus on a few key examples. So first, we are active in fragrance and flavor, and we have ongoing pilots with key players in this area. And what we offer is products which are bio-based, which are not in competition with food resources. And also we offer a constant supply. And this is exactly the pain points of current suppliers. We are also active in bioplastics, and we offer a sustainable alternative to PET, especially for food packaging application. And we are here in discussion also with the brand owners with ongoing pilots. And what we offer is reduction of CO2 emissions by up to 90%. We are also active in other areas of materials, including polyurethanes, where we replace petro-derived phenols with our ingredients. And finally, we are also preparing entry to very large markets, such as marine fuels, where we offer sulfur-free biogenic heavy fuel oil, which can be used as drop-in in current fleets for the cargo companies. So we are not ambitioning to enter all these markets at once. We have an expansion strategy from niche markets, such as fragrances or cosmetics, and then go all the way to very large markets, such as textiles or fuels. But if we look a bit back in the timeline, we developed the technology in 2016. They were patented, and then we raised last year a 3.9 million seed round with the support of key investors, including Yokogawa Electrics, Extensible Capital, and Breakthrough Energy Venture. And currently, we are focusing on validating the technology at the pilot scale, so 600 liter scale, but also moving towards offtake agreements with the customers. And with this, we will be raising by the end of next year a 30 to 55 million Series A to finance the construction of our demonstration unit to really move one step further in the development. So we want to act as a manufacturer during all that time, but there is a point in 27, where we will be starting to act as a technology provider and attracting licenses. So we have a team with mainly young people, which are all sharing the same goals, active for pilot operation, process development, product development, and safety. And all this young team is backed by a very experienced board with the key expertise for all the areas of our company. We are always eager to grow our network of partners. So if you are interested, feel free to get in touch with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Florent. Thanks, Bloom. That was great. Our last company before the break, or before the poll, is Plagazzi. Plagazzi, founded in 2018, is a Swedish-based renewable energy company that has patented a technology to convert any type of waste into pure green hydrogen via plasma gasification. Let's welcome them on stage.
The world of energy stands on the brink of a monumental change.
Green hydrogen is the fuel of the future.
Both Germany and the rest of the European Union have realized this potential and are investing billions to achieve it.
We believe that today's hydrogen production processes are not living up to their full potential in terms of product, cost, and emission. But what if I told you that there's actually a solution to create pure green hydrogen made out of waste at a fraction of the cost, with attractive financial returns, and while still improving the environment? This solution is called the patented Plagazzi process.
So how does it actually work? Well, the basis of the Plagazzi process is the plasma gasification of any type of waste. In other words, waste is fed into a plasma reactor, where it's exposed to temperatures above 3000 degrees Celsius. At this level of heat, the waste is broken down to its atomic level, and then rebuilt to create hydrogen. The excess energy from the reaction is later converted into electricity and recycled within the process. The final step is to improve the hydrogen ratio in the end product and to liquefy the carbon dioxide so that it can be captured for future reusage or storage.
Now let's take an example of a recycling company focusing on cars. The last remaining parts of the recycling process are called ASR, or automotive shredder residue. Today, the ASR waste is simply let or disposed on landfill sites. However, if we would use the Plagazzi process, we could use that ASR waste and turn it into pure green hydrogen, which could further be used to fuel vehicles, creating 100% recycling effect. Or we could sell it to neighboring hydrogen pipelines, which would create further financial but also further environmental benefits from waste we wouldn't have used otherwise.
You might ask yourselves, this sounds great, but does it actually work? The answer to that is yes. This process has been run for the last decade with solid results.
But who are we?
We have been building our hydrogen expertise while the industry has been sleeping over the last 2 decades.
And together we have more than 100 years of experience, learning from one of the key players in the Nordic industries, called AGA.
And now we are ready to accelerate the green hydrogen revolution across Europe.
Fantastic. Thanks for that, Gustav and team. Okay, okie doke. So time for the poll. Please feel free to click through the poll to request an introduction for these startups.
Yeah, great presentations. As everyone knows, the green hydrogen economy, whether it's the production or transportation or storage of it, has been top of mind for many of our partners across the heavy industries, not just the oil and gas or energy, but manufacturing as well as industrial partners that we have. And it's really great to see the Breakthrough Energy Venture Arm's European arm has backed the Bloom, and the company has been awarded numerous prizes both in Switzerland and abroad.
Totally. We previously had other companies in the batch, like 12, or previously known as Opus 12 or Infinium Fuels, and we're excited to see where this whole new wave in new sustainable fuels goes. So our next, after this, after this short break, our next company or next bucket contains companies operating across solar, alternative fuel production, and carbon accounting and reduction. One of the main challenges for solar developers today is actually being able to find the best sites to develop projects where they can get good margins with low risk. Oslo-based Glint Solar has developed a tool based on satellite data, machine learning, and a combine of various data sources where the solar developers can quickly find and identify the best data insights to make their projects successful. Now let's welcome Glint Solar.
Hi, we are Glint Solar, and we are from Norway, Oslo. In the next 10 years, more than $1.8 trillion will be invested in solar energy. And to illustrate how much this is, in Europe, you have to build 8 solar parks every day for the next 30 years if you build 10 megawatt solar parks. And likewise in the US, you have to build 14 10 megawatt solar parks every day for the next 30 years. And how to build these solar parks is getting more and more standardized. However, how to find those sites is the challenge. Many people call this the next gold rush. And that's exactly what we are helping solar developers doing. We are scanning and analyzing the world with satellite data and machine learning to help them find these best sites. And to identify those sites is challenging because there's a high number of factors you have to evaluate. Like you have to look at the land type, the slope, the shading, the distance to the grid, distance to the road, land ownership, and all these factors are affecting the cost of the project. And the way people are doing it today is very manual. It takes time, and often you're looking at 10, 15 projects just to find one who has an acceptable profit margin.
So instead, what we're proposing is to go from a reactive to a proactive approach by not looking at 10, maybe looking at 10,000 potential project sites, and then finding the ones that really move the needle on the profitability, but also that allows the customers to grow much, much quicker than their competitors. In our product, we have been global almost since day one, and it's now loved by customers around the world. And the business model is straightforward. We're selling an annual license per geography to our customers. And our core customer is solar developers, those with very ambitious growth plans, maybe in multiple markets. And we have a scalable technology solution. So it's still early, but we are on track commercially. We're building the product, but already now we're seeing that 57% of our customers, they're coming to us saying this is exactly the type of insight that we're looking for in this gold rush. And this has led to a 600% ARR growth year over year. And in terms of the team, we think we combine the best of energy and data science. Harald here is a very successful serial entrepreneur with 15 years in the energy sector. John, our CTO and third co-founder, is an acclaimed mathematician, data scientist, and satellite expert. And I bring international energy background and experience from working on 3 different continents. And we are now assembling a terrific team, both here in Oslo and also in Boston, of data scientists, energy experts, and market leaders to help us move this mission forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Harald and team. Awesome. So our next company is based out of Switzerland. Ideate provides renewable hydrogen based on solar energy and solar fuel at a clean, green, and cost-effective price. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hello, everyone. My name is Saurabh Tembune, and I am the CEO and founder of Ideate. So let me start by asking a very simple but quite important question. Wouldn't it be great if we could reduce our current dependency on conventional fossil fuels, which are anyway exhausting and are the major cause of damages to our environment? And wouldn't it be equally amazing if we could produce a fuel just by using sunlight and water? The simple answer is yes. This would be absolutely great. And this is exactly what we do at Ideate. So at SoHitech, we provide renewable system for on-site production of clean and green fuel as well as power. And the fuel which we are talking about here is hydrogen. So let's see what's the main opportunity for us here. As you all probably already know, that hydrogen is widely recognized as the fuel for the future. Though the main problem is that most of this hydrogen currently is being produced from fossil fuels and is produced in centralized facilities. Now you could imagine all the problems associated with this approach, and there are many. So what's the solution? The solution is with our product called ARB. ARB is an artificial tree which uses only sunlight and water as the only input resources, and it gives you highly pure and clean fuel, that is hydrogen. But not only this, it also co-generates pure oxygen and significant amount of thermal energy or heat. So let's see how our product actually functions. It actually works and looks like a tree. So on the right side, you can see the real footage of the product. So what's the magic sauce here? So basically what we do is we collect the sunlight. This sunlight is being reflected to a small focal spot, and that's where we put our core innovative device. This device works on the principle of photoelectrochemistry. So basically we absorb the photons, we generate electrical charges, and then use these electrical charges to break the water molecule. And we do all this with the assistance of thermal energy. So what we do is thermally assisted photo-driven separation of water. And with our technology, in fact, we have demonstrated one of the highest solar to fuel efficiencies in the world, that too at high throughput, or the so-called high power and current densities. So what you see over here is basically a large-scale implementation of our solution. So what we provide is a farm of multiple of these artificial trees, which can cater to the needs of large, small, or even medium-scale customers. So with this, I would like to emphasize that our system is the world's best solar hydrogen production system, which holds a world record for demonstrating one of the highest efficiencies at high throughput. We recently completed a product scale pilot which smashed our own performance records, and now we are working on industrial pilots, one of the first one which is going to be here in Switzerland with a steel processing factory, and the other ones in pipeline where we are targeting USA, Europe, and India. So if this small introduction incites your interest in joining us on our journey towards making the solar fuels a reality of today, then please look up for us. We can be reached via our website, sohitech.com, or you can reach me via LinkedIn. My name is Saurabh Temburne, and I thank you all for your attention. Thanks.
Thanks, Saurabh. Great technology up there. Our next company, CarbMe, is based out of Berlin and was founded in 2020, so fairly recently, and they help companies accelerate their decarbonization strategies by empowering operational teams to take science-based actions based on Scope 3 emissions. CarbMe solution uses science-based methodologies for a detailed comprehension of corporate greenhouse gas emissions. Interestingly enough, CarbMe was also part of one of our corporate partners' innovation days last month, and we're excited to see more companies looking at their Scope 3 emissions as well.
Okay, my name is Christian. I'm co-founder of CarbMe, and I like to explain you in the next 3 minutes how you can decarbonize, how you can start your decarbonization journey in the value chain of your companies, because there is usually 80% of carbon emissions which need to be reduced. So how does the whole thing look like? What are we doing? At the end, a lot of people are talking and companies are talking about becoming climate neutral. There are science-based target initiatives. There is the GHG protocol. There's the global warming initiative, etc. And you have the pressure as a company to reduce your carbon footprint. Also in the US, the big goal is in 2030 to produce 50% electric cars. This is not just because it's nice to have an electric car. This is just because of the CO2 certificates products and the carbon costs. And we as CarbMe, we help you reducing the carbon costs. How do we do that? We support your supply chains, value chains, transparency, that you understand what is my product carbon footprint, but not only the product carbon footprint, also what is my supplier carbon footprint. So it's super interesting to identify your CO2 hotspots in the supply chain, to also analyze them. So really to identify the hotspot suppliers, the hotspot materials, in order to use this argument and to translate the carbon emissions into costs in dollars, euros, and yen, so that you can use it for the negotiations. You can share it and collaborate with your suppliers. But at the end, there are hard facts. And the question will be who pays for the whole carbon costs. And this is why we are here as a software, in order to empower you to make the costs of your suppliers transparent, and then to use that in negotiation in order to reduce it together. For example, in logistics cost, or improving material, reducing material, reducing carbon emissions. And then you can reduce your penalty fees. How do we do that, and what are we focusing in? Especially, it's important that you understand who is responsible regarding supplier base, or what material is responsible for what CO2 emission footprint. And this is not that easy, because you can imagine you have thousands of transactions per year in your supply chain. You need to understand which supplier with what material is the kind of real hotspot, and then you can start engaging together with him. So you will not talk to every of your 50,000 suppliers and send out emails, and then based on your emails, you can then start the reduction process. There needs to be a software which manages that whole process and gives you an easy to use approach, in order also to communicate and to manage the whole reduction process. How does that look like? So we can create with our EIS, our environmental intelligence system, so-called emission breakdowns on material, transport, and transactional level. And we integrated with a so-called LCA calculation. That's the life cycle assessment. So at the end, we bring together the sustainability world of the LCA models with your supply chain and procurement world in the real operations. And based on that, you have an opportunity to integrate also suppliers on our tool, in order to reduce, together with the suppliers, your carbon footprint. For sure, this is dynamic with real-time information. And for sure, you can use our automatic analytics system in order to track that you really achieve your, for example, 2030 targets. How does that look like? Just some examples here. For sure, we have a dashboard layer that you can manage your hotspots, your hot emitters. You can also use that for several categories, for countries, for plants. And you have also a transactional system where you can really manage that and collaborate on the system, which is necessary in order to have a good output on the dashboard. So that's the important thing, that you understand we have two layers. So the transactional layer, it's similar like an ERP system, and analytical layer, which is the dashboard system. Just to show you why this is important, and this is just a use case on climate neutral cars. So especially in the automotive industry, everybody's talking right now about how can we produce climate neutral cars. And here you see the whole scope 3 chain. So it's in the supply chain, it's in the production, but also in the distribution, the logistics, and the upcycle and the recycling and the use phase. Those are all relevant topics. We collect the relevant data. We store that in a central database. And based on all participants in that supply chain, which means suppliers, also internal engineers, you can then collaboratively work on our platform in order to make sure that it's really a climate neutral car in some years. So this is nothing which happens from today, but this is a perfect example that you can see it. So if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me, and let's start the decarbonization journey. We still have some years, but we need to start now, otherwise it's too late. Thanks. That was it from my side.
Thanks, Kristen. Well, our next company is also one that we're really excited about. So Ever Impact, based out of Europe, is addressing climate change, but essentially tackling cities and their impact on carbon and GHG emissions. Ever Impact has developed a software that helps cities and companies measure, reduce, and monetize their CO2 emissions. Through their software, clients can access their own individualized platform, providing them with unique CO2 accurate measures, identify CO2 reduction opportunities to achieve their climate goals, and monetize and finance their CO2 reduction efforts. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hi, my name is Mathieu Carlier, CEO of EverImpact. At EverImpact, we decarbonize high-emitting sectors with reliable carbon tracking. So we mean cities, transportation, energy, oil and gas, and mining sectors. What we see is that on the one hand, a lot of our customers in those industries have to reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2030. They are under a lot of pressure to reduce. At the same time, they have limited tools to track their carbon emissions. They do this based on estimates and Excel spreadsheets. This is why we have developed a software that is the one-stop shop solution to track and monetize your carbon reductions. First, we make the carbon footprint. 2, we find reduction insights in the data. And 3, we trade carbon emissions reductions to generate revenues for our customers. We are working with smart cities. We've tested and validated the technology in 10 European cities, and we're starting to generate revenues for the first city in France, Dijon, with the deployment of 40 sensors. We are currently replicating this in the UK and deploying our technology into the street hubs with British Telecom all over the UK. We're also starting to work with the shipping industry to make the carbon footprint of vessels and with oil and gas industry. Some of our investors include the European Commission, French government, Asian Development Bank, and also a Google Seed Fund. For example, here is a case study of a city that can generate about 114 million euros over a period of 30 years as part of their decarbonization efforts. We're also looking at over 10 million euros in 10 years for a fleet of 100 vessels. And we are really on the way to transform several industries and support them to accelerate their energy transition and decarbonization efforts. We have won, for example, the Shell New Energy Challenge recently, and we are now developing also a solution with Shell to decarbonize their industry and distribute their impact to their B2B customers. We've been acknowledged by companies like Google and accelerated by them, and also working with British Telecom in close partnership to distribute our technology in UK cities. Our team was former CEOs of the United Nations, where we've been scaling UN agencies and have expertise in ground and satellite data for climate change. And we're surrounded by execs from Google, NASA, or British Petroleum to scale the company. So if you have some issues with decarbonizations, need to track carbon emissions, or simply would be interested to invest our company, feel free to reach out and hear more about our growth plans. We are growing quickly at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matthew. All right, folks, so it's time for another poll. Please feel free to use the poll to request an introduction to any of the companies that were part of the second subset.
Yeah, this was quite a mix of companies that presented in this batch. I think part of the reason we've seen a surge in the greenhouse gas emission reductions and carbon neutrality startups in the past 12 to 18 months is due to the Biden's $2 billion climate plan. And we've seen a lot of investments in solar, concentrated solar, as well as energy intelligence, energy storage value stack, as well as clean transport. Some of the key investments that has been done over the past 12 months are really exciting. We can break it down for you. Yeah, totally. Both cities and corporations are pledging to go net zero, and city halls and governments want to assess the environmental the environmental impact of their portfolios as well. All right, so it looks like we're halfway through the startup pitches. The next bucket of companies contains companies operating across industrial maintenance, industrial automation, energy storage, and EV battery repurposing. Our first company, Guaranteed, is helping actually reassess the metal parts for the heavy industry and try to produce them back again at a lower cost. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hello, my name is Joachim Antonissen. I'm the general manager of a company called Guaranteed, which was created in 2019 by, on the one hand, ArcelorMittal, worldwide the largest steel producing company, Venindus, which is a metal innovation-oriented VC fund based in Flanders, and OCAS, which is a metal-oriented research company, also in Flanders. Our mission is to create value for our customers by providing large-scale, extra large-scale metal 3D printing services for a variety of different industrial sectors which are listed on the slide. We do so by producing, repairing, and refurbishing large metal parts using WAM technology, which is wire arc additive manufacturing. As compared to other more well-known 3D printing technologies, this wire-based technology allows us to provide unrivaled dimensional capabilities with part sizes up to 10 by 6 by 5 meters and weights up to 20 tons being possible. It also allows us to be more cost efficient and sustainable as compared to other technologies due to, on the one hand, a significantly higher production speed, a much lower feedstock cost, higher efficiency, and lower waste. Being born from innovation, we use state-of-the-art process software and inline process monitoring tools to provide our customers with a guarantee on part quality and performance. Being raised in industry, we have adopted a fully integrated one-stop shop approach to ensure we respect lead times and have a reliable production capability. In the energy sector, wire arc manufacturing provided by Guaranteed enables sustainable part production, which helps to avoid standstills or downtimes due to large castings and forgings having lead times which can easily go up to 12 months. Therefore, these parts are today very often kept in warehouses for very long times, where they might even become obsolete after a couple of years. Our large-scale metal additive manufacturing capabilities allow for a much faster, cost-efficient and more sustainable solution, which helps to free up capital and reduce physical inventories. Also, when parts become obsolete, our technology provides a solution to extend the lifetime of those installations. And furthermore, we're also convinced that a lot of residual value still resides in broken or damaged parts. Very often we've seen that repairing or refurbishing these parts can produce a very interesting alternative to purchasing completely new parts, which again allows to save significantly in terms of cost, lead time, but also very importantly in terms of material and energy resources. Towards the future, we envisage to have several production facilities being opened in different locations around the world, with high priority regions such as the US, the United Emirates, as well as Singapore and North Africa. At the same time, we have now a prototype machine available also, which allows us to have actually a mobile service being offered to our customers. So rather than bringing parts into our factory, we're actually now also capable to bringing our factory to our customers, which allows on-site or even in-situ repair process to be offered to our customers as well. If you want to hear more of us, please get in touch with us and we'll be very happy to set up a meeting with you in order to exchange more on potential use cases where our technology could be bringing value to your business. Thanks a lot and hope to meet you soon.
Fantastic. That was Guaranteed. Our next company, Cal Technologies, is based out of Chile, and they help with asset and productivity monitoring with artificial vision and data processing. Using artificial intelligence and computer vision, Cal can apply its technology in industries such as oil and gas, energy mining, manufacturing to inspect power lines, large pipelines, gas pipelines, oil pipelines, minor pipelines, or water mains, production lines, infrastructure, and fleets. So there's a whole lot of different use cases that Cabo can cover. So let's hear more about what they have for us today.
I'm Lunetska, and this is Cabo for asset inspection in the energy sector for oil and gas and transmission companies. Cabo is a company that's been in the market for over 14 years developing software and electronics and has over 9 years working with image recognition, with artificial intelligence, what we call artificial vision, lately applied into industrial sectors such as oil and gas, energy, nuclear, mining, and basically the inspection of linear assets. Our mission is to contribute to the world with our knowledge and technology. We are currently in the US, having headquarters in California, also offices in Texas, in South America, in Santiago, Chile, Ecuador, and also in Germany. So we know that it's very important for you to know when to protect your assets. And that's why we came up with a solution for monitoring with artificial intelligence so that you can keep everyone safe and act before you need to react. What we bring to the table is effectiveness in alerts, accident prevention, and compliance with the use of our AI tool. Basically, energy companies need to partner with providers to effectively gather image and video footage so that they can monitor their linear assets and prevent mega risks and also learn about potential threats. So we did this with high quality aerial image caption. Afterwards, we process it with our AI. We use a real-time alert system for your teams and patrols who are on foot. And we gather all this information in a platform to manage the alerts. And this is what we call K-Alert. Most companies have different images and footage, but they don't really have the time to process it because it's hours of looking through. And so this is what we do with AI. Basically, we capture images, we alert once they are processed in our artificial intelligence, and we communicate them so that your teams can act promptly. We basically need images, hopefully they are 4K or they have a minimum size so that we can be processed by the AI. And we can gather them through drones, aircraft like helicopters or planes, robots, static cameras, etc. Also, we can combine different image types like from optical cameras, thermal cameras, infrared, and LiDAR to create different parameters and different types of alerts. Right now, we recognize over 300 different objects from machinery, vehicles, fire blazes, animals, and also everything that has to do with vegetation management. So this tool can be applied to know third-party threats as well as to manage vegetation, calculate distances, and everything that has to be related to third-party threats for either pipelinings or transmission lines. Finally, this is all the information and alerts are gathered in a platform so that you can access anytime, and they can help you with compliance if you need to report them afterwards. And you get high resolution images with the GPS coordinates and the list of alerts that have been seen. This is how it works. We have two types of services. One is we provide the all-in-one solution with inspection and image processing, or we can provide just the image processing that finally gets processed with our AI, and you get the access to the platform. This is how it looks basically, our image processing converted to dynamic data. So you know the hotspots, where are your biggest concentration of red alerts, for example, and you can set the parameters for these alerts, and maybe different parameters can be combined as well, either distances from the transmission lines, type of vehicles, anything that would trigger an alert. We have worked with several oil and gas industries and companies, and also from the energy sector, and we have had really good experiences either with third-party threats recognition and also help them improve their KPIs, for example, by bringing down their costs and increasing their inspection time with the same budget they do it currently with other methods. So this is our tool. We hope that you like it, and you can contact us at cowell.com. Thank you very much.
Awesome, everyone. So moving on to a slightly different topic, which is energy storage. Energy storage was actually a really big part of our corporate partner interest in the last batch, with companies like Energy Dome getting massive interest from our corporate clients. Interesting fact, they're wrapping up their 10 million Series A, and feel free to reach out to them if there's interest. So our next company, Felas, is operating across a similar space, is developing Aurora, a standardized mass-produced large-scale electrical storage system built on a new proprietary approach to air liquefaction with over 50% round-trip efficiency. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hi, my name is Justin. I'm from Felas. We do one thing: we store electricity to enable a 100% renewable future. What is the problem at hand? 30% of global CO2 emissions are just due to coal-fired power generation, 30%. On the other hand, it has never been cheaper to produce electricity, the IEA found. In the history of humanity, PV and wind are the cheapest form. So it really begs the question, why do we live on two worlds on one planet? Something is amiss. What is that? We need cheap and large-scale energy storage to store electricity when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining. We do that with liquid air. We take air, we condense it, we cool it down so that it condenses, we store the electricity in that process, and if we reverse that process, we can release it again. That leads to a system that is highly modular in our case, so we can clearly separate power from energy provision, that low costs, especially for large amounts or long duration energy storage is enabled. Air as a storage medium is universally available for free. The components are proven reliable. There's no toxicity involved in the system, no fire hazards, and it can be built with a local supply chain. Who are our customers? We have three customer groups: renewable operators and developers, system operators, and energy-intensive industries. For the beachhead, we start with the energy-intensive industries. For growth, we look at renewable energy operators and developers. Market-wise, there's a gigantic market opportunity at hand with a beachhead of already 120 million euros and a sum market of more than $1 billion, and in general, a 600 billion opportunity in the next 20 years. Business model-wise, we have a staggered approach. We start with sales of these systems. We're talking 7 figures here, but eventually we want to go into leasing because of the modularized nature with the long lifetime of the system combined. We can offer the system for 5 years to a customer and then to the next customer in different configuration, which really allows recurring revenue early on. What is important is, I think, very much is the team. We focus on 3 core pillars: technology, marketing, customer, and strategy and operations. All those 3 together make this startup succeed. If any one of them is missing, we wouldn't. So we really focused early on making sure that we have all 3 bases covered. We are also proudly supported by more and more accelerators, but also industry in building up relationships there. Where are we timeline-wise? We are finishing our demonstrator early next year. We do have a paid pilot customer, and we want to raise our seed round also in the first half of next year. Last but not least, our vision that's very dear to me: 100% renewable energy globally should become a no-brainer. And that means they must be so cheap and so sustainable that nobody in their right mind would do anything but simply building renewable energy. Thank you.
Thanks, Felas team. All right, so repurposing batteries is actually another key part of the transition to fully electric transportation. Utilities and other companies are exploring use cases for battery reuse and repurpose beyond energy storage, including EV charging infrastructure and more. Founded in 2018, Bioplastics develops technological projects based on the reuse of batteries removed from the electric car and is already working with Iberdrola and other key players in Europe. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hi, my name is Jonasin, and I am the CEO of the company Bioplastics Factory. Our company is about second life batteries. We recover depleted lithium-ion batteries from electric vehicles from the field, mainly from the dealers or scrap yards, and we give them a second life. For this, first we need to select them, the good from the bad, and make new energy systems that we sell to renewable energy customers normally. And finally, we trace these batteries all the way to the final recycling process. Okay. We founded the company in 2018, 3 individual partners, myself, Agustín Ideate, and Carlos Jonis. We all share over 20 years of experience mainly in energy, electric mobility, automotive, and logistics. As particularly myself, I was the former president of the Spanish Association for Electric Mobility. Currently, we are 19 employees working at B-Planet headquarters in Pamplona, north of Spain. Our key figures: we expect a turnover of over 1.2 million euros in 2021. We have already invested over 800,000 euros among all the shareholders, and we have received over 1 million euros in R&D grants in different projects. And we have obtained also over 600,000 euros in banking loans. So in 2018, we started this company classifying Nissan Leaf modules. We have a process which is in the way of obtaining a patent for that. We have developed our own BMS, and at the end of 2019, we developed and launched the first Second Life product in Spain, Second Life energy system in Spain. After that, we concentrated on larger systems. Each one of these has 42 kilowatt hours. It's made out of 2 batteries of Nissan Leaf. We develop our own software, and we launch some machine learning and artificial intelligence system with all the data that we are gathering. And we are focusing on key markets such as fast EV charging or industrial self-consumption or PV plants for primary sector. Sustainability is the cornerstone of our activity. We estimate that we save over 4 tons of CO2 compared with the first life battery, 12 kilowatt hour battery. And before running out of time, I show you some real pictures. Okay, this is the first installation we made, 50 kilowatt charging station, 100 kilowatts of photovoltaic, and 60 kilowatt hour of storage. Okay, a different system with 180 kilowatt hours. This was larger. Another one that we made in a renewable energy plant in Spain, 120 kilowatt hour. This is how it looks inside, 6 of these cabinets. And this is one we made for the Mercedes-Benz plant in Vitoria, 42 kilowatt hours here inside. And last but not least, this is our flagship project at the moment. This is the system we have made to be used as energy buffer for the fast charging infrastructure network for Iberdrola. Well, many thanks by your time. That is all.
Wonderful. That was B-Planet, everyone. Time for our third poll.
Quite a mix of startups in this batch, and the one that particularly struck me was B-Planet's work with Iberdrola, the large energy conglomerate in Spain, which is where our own Alberto comes from, which really outlines the opportunity for utilities and energy companies to build new revenue streams by repurposing old batteries. In this particular project they announced in September 21, they effectively use old batteries from 14 electric vehicles, and they're allowing 4 electric vehicles to charge simultaneously, reducing 70% of carbon emissions.
Yeah, totally. And the solution also increases the potential of establishing partnerships between utilities, OEMs, and startups like B-Planet to drive new revenue and new revenue streams and new business. So it's really exciting. Our last bucket of companies is specifically focused around different tools that utilities can leverage to navigate the transition to a decentralized energy landscape, and is strongly tied to the panel we had a while ago on this expo. So our next company, Plexigrid, was founded in 2020 and provides a software platform that allows for the timely monitoring, control, and optimization of decentralized energy assets, allowing for faster grid optimization and lower transmission and distribution costs, as well as lower transmission damages. Their solution covers analytics and monitoring for DSOs, as well as rapid demand response. Let's welcome them on stage.
Hi, this is Ruben Medina, one of the 3 co-founders of Plexigrid, and I want to introduce our company, Plexigrid. We provide network management systems to distribution system operators and distribution energy resource management system, DERMS, to aggregators, commercialization, or retailers. We base the technology in the electrical information. These days, everybody talks about digitalization, and especially in electrical networks, many people talk about sensors, data, interconnectivity, and all these things help. But the core of the digitalization is the ability to model everything that is happening in the network in real time. And in the low voltage side of the network, this is where everything will happen in the energy transition and where the core of our technology is focused. In doing so, what we provide is first a huge data lake where we include all information available for the utility in smart meter data, SCADA, ERP, GIS, inventory, wherever you have, we can model it and extract knowledge by combining all the information that is available. Once we have all the information available, we are able to model the network and extract real knowledge out of this information. How? Improving the operations, understanding what is the flexibility by modeling different scenarios, understanding whether there is capacity for new requests, or planning the grid forward with the possibility of modeling different scenarios and how the grid can evolve in time. The final purpose of the tool is to be able to control in real time what is going on in the network. In doing that, this allows to make congestion management or improving the operations in real time. When it comes to the DERMS, what we provide is the aggregation of all the information from the final users. Here we talk about electrical vehicles, PV panels, batteries, heat pumps, all aggregated and able to participate in the optimization of the end user or participating in production markets, operation markets, or flexibility markets. The platform for the DERMS is modular, is scalable, and we include the forecasting module to optimize the timing for operations for the following days or weeks, artificial intelligence, and obviously allowing the aggregator to become a virtual power plant that can optimize against the aggregation or against the individual. The best way to really test what I am saying is to schedule a demo with us, and we will be delighted to show the benefits of Plexigrid. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks Ruben and team. Our next company also drives energy decentralization forward. Grid Cognition software helps with the financial performance analysis of decentralized energy portfolios. Their software simulates and optimizes complex distributed energy projects before they are built, and then tracks and re-optimizes their performance once assets are on the ground. Let's welcome them on stage.
Energy is the biggest part of the global economy, and for 100 years it's been stable and boring. But all that's changing with a shift to a world where everyone can own energy assets. Solar, storage, EVs, smart homes and buildings. Now the old players are fighting for relevance and new players are rushing in.
We founded Grid Cognition to accelerate the global transition to a decarbonised, decentralised energy future. We build software to plan, optimise and track the technical and commercial performance of decentralised energy projects. Optimising decentralised energy systems in dynamic energy markets is massively complex and can be super expensive if you get it wrong. Our customers use Grid Cognition to try before they buy, testing digital versions of their projects before they invest and optimising once they are on the ground. At Grid Cognition, our simulation engine combines real-world data, commercial, environmental and technical inputs to provide bankable modelling of distributed energy projects. Maximising the benefits of these projects requires co-optimisation, with consideration of site selection, asset sizing, control strategies, ownership models, network access arrangements, market participation options and financing. Grid Cognition project simulations can span multiple markets, multiple sites, and many distributed energy technologies like behind-the-meter solar and storage, electric vehicle charging, and load flexibility. We know the future will be 100% decarbonised, decentralised, and digitised. Energy will come from small but smart assets distributed throughout the built environment. We're working with networks, retailers, energy solution providers, and large energy users from across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK.
All wanting to plan and optimise the new energy future with Grid Cognition.
Thank you, Fabian. That was fantastic. Great. So it's true that analysis and planning is super important to predict the cost of renewable energy. And actually, Imbalance is trying to use their technology to reduce the uncertainties around energy trading and pricing. Imbalance offers unique and cutting-edge machine learning electricity, price and risk modeling software to reflect the complexity of an energy market landscape that is increasingly shaped by renewables.
Hello, we're in Balance. My name is Thomas, a founder and current executive officer. We use machine learning to manage grid-scale storage and renewable power plants. Our clients, which include Enel, use our software to improve their revenue by millions of dollars a year. A wind turbine can't control whether it will be producing electricity, it's intermittent. A hydroelectric dam, on the other hand, can control when it's producing power, but there's only so much power behind the dam per day. The operator must decide whether to produce power at 6 p.m. versus 6:15 p.m. Electricity prices can fluctuate by 300% in 15 minutes, so mistiming dispatch can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in a single day. Our real-time dispatch optimization ensures that there's water behind the dam when it's needed most. We manage 75 megawatt hours of grid-scale storage in Texas. Our customers, by using our forecasts, can realize up to $675,000 in savings per day. In addition, we've already reduced carbon-intensive oil-based electricity generation by up to 7% per day in New England by managing an additional 140 megawatt hours. There are over 3,300 major IPPs and utilities in the United States alone. We will hit $100 million in ARR within 5 years by signing just 250 of these power asset owners, or 8% of the domestic market. The capacity of electricity storage that needs our software is growing by 24% each year, and the total addressable market is already $4 billion. $200 billion of grid-scale storage will be built over the next 5 years, and storage integrators report we improved their gross margin by 5% as we're an integral part of the project financing process. I met Raj and Edwin at University of Cambridge, and we've convinced our brightest friends to leave their jobs at hedge funds to join us full-time. We then joined Y Combinator Winter 21 batch, which enabled us to close our multi-year $225,000 contract with Enel. We are in Balance. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Incord is our last company for today. So Incord is a Denver and Germany-based software company that specializes in modeling of energy networks. Incord's mission is to enable global energy transitions by providing decision makers with solutions to decarbonize energy systems. Incord's main product is the scenario analysis interface for energy systems, the only software that can model coupled energy networks using simulation and optimization algorithms.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlo Brancucci, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Encord. We are an American and German software company specialized in energy modeling. First of all, I would like to thank Plug and Play for the opportunity to pitch Encord to you all today. Our purpose as a company is to enable the decarbonization of energy systems. This is one of the biggest ambitions of the 21st century, and it has three major challenges. One is the need for flexibility of the energy system to integrate the variability and the uncertainty of variable renewable energy sources. Second is the need for long-term storage to cope with the seasonality of renewable energy sources and energy demand. And third is the need for carbon neutral fuels for processes and sectors that cannot be electrified. These decarbonization challenges can be addressed by transitioning from independently operated and planned energy networks to fully integrated energy systems. This is challenging if we rely on today's planning tools that are focused mostly on single energy networks. We require tools to model and plan the coupling and the interface between different energy networks. And this challenge is what we address with our unique solution, SAINT, which stands for Scenario Analysis Interface for Energy Systems. SAINT is a planning software to model the integration and coordination of coupled energy networks. With SAINT, a user can model either independently or coupled different types of energy networks, including electricity grids, gas pipeline networks that may include hydrogen networks as well, heat and cooling networks, as well as liquid networks such as water. What sets SAINT apart compared to other energy planning software out there? First is the ability to model the coupling of energy networks, so modeling different energy networks in a single software in a coupled way. This allows the user to quantify the synergies and interdependencies between them. Second is the ability to integrate meteorological data sets to model with high resolution and accuracy the time series of variable renewable energy sources, such as wind and solar power. And third, the ability to model both markets and physical networks within the same platform to quantify the trade-offs between cost and reliability. Our customers include electric and gas network operators, energy utilities, governmental institutions such as energy regulators, investors and developers, as well as research organizations or consulting companies. And to date, we have paying customers in 9 different countries in Europe and the Americas. All our clients use Saint as a planning tool, so to better inform their planning decisions, to either reduce capital and operational costs, or to increase reliability and resiliency of their energy networks, or to enable different solutions that allow them to achieve decarbonization. Here are 3 quick examples of how 3 of our oldest customers have been using Saint over the past few years. The European Commission uses Saint to study the impact of the interdependency of electricity and gas networks on energy security. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory of the United States uses Saint to study the coordination of electric and gas network operations to integrate higher penetrations of renewable energy. And TenneT, a European electricity transmission system operator, uses Saint to plan the optimal location of electrolyzers by modeling their electric network coupled to the existing natural gas network or future hydrogen networks. I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to hear from you soon if you want to know more about Saint or you would like to see a live demo.
Wonderful. So that was all for the startup pitches presenting today. Please make sure to fill in this last poll. And a last big thank you and warm thank you to all the startups that presented today.
Yeah, that's a wrap for the startup presentations of our 9th Expo of the Energy Program here in Silicon Valley. Thank you so much for tuning in to all of our partners and investors who are in our network. And it's great to see more companies pushing for a decentralized and decarbonized energy mix. And we project an uptick in the investments that we make. A lot of SPACs have occurred this past year, including one today in one of our portfolio companies, Sanhan, that's going to be publicly traded via a SPAC, which we're excited about. So we're excited for the new trends that are ahead of us. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So moving on to the next section of our expo, we will be giving out our Corporate Partner Award. I'm passing it over to our president, Neda Amidi, who will be giving our Corporate Partner Award to this year's most active corporate partner.
Please.
Thank you so much, Alberto and Wade. It's a pleasure to be back here on stage today. I had the opportunity to kick off our summit week last week, which we've done a lot in the past couple days and weeks in networking and getting together in person with folks. So it's exciting to be back on here. As Alberto introduced, my name is Neda Amidi, president of Plug and Play, and I'm very pleased today to announce our Energy and Sustainability Innovation Award winner to one of our most influential partners in Latin America. Maybe we can do a drum roll. We used to do this when it was fully in person. I'd like to, welcome on stage and announce Ecopetrol as our Innovation Award for today's summit. Ecopetrol is the largest and primary energy company in Colombia, the 4th largest in Latin America, and is part of the global Fortune 500. We have been working with them with their digital studio for the past 2 years, in which we've seen the fastest and greatest change occur. They ranked top of their class based on the volume of innovation activities, the number of pilots that they've done with the startups, and overall engagement. We couldn't be more proud of their achievements and can't wait to see what's around the corner for us. To accept this award on behalf of Ecopetrol, their CEO, Felipe Bayón, has recorded this message for us. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Felipe Bayón, and I'm the CEO of Ecopetrol. We're very pleased and honored to receive this Corporate Innovation Award from Plug and Play. We think it acknowledges our commitments and efforts to put innovation and technology at the heart of sustainability. That's what we refer to in Ecopetrol as TESG. And it's our firm belief that technology and innovation are both catalyzers to ensure that from an environmental, social, and governance dimensions, we can accelerate sustainability. Back in 2019, we had the opportunity to visit Plug and Play in Silicon Valley. Since then, Ecopetrol has been focused on working on strengthening our connections with international high-tech ecosystems in pursuit of accelerating our transformation processes through very disruptive solutions. Working alongside Plug and Play has been, first, a lot of fun. It's been an honor, and it's been fundamental to enhance our innovation capabilities. Today, we have already connected with more than 110 startups. We've executed some 10 deal flows, and we're currently running 3 pilots. Through this open innovation process, we're working to solve key operational challenges, like, for example, how can we accelerate our reservoir simulation? How can we predict, and reduce our non-productive times in drilling operations? Or how can we optimize our rig scheduling? All fundamental to our core business. And we're doing this using AI and machine learning. We're also addressing, with the use of technology, opportunities and challenges of the energy transition. And this in 4 fronts. The first one, how do we increase competitiveness of our existing portfolio, of our core business? The second, how do we further diversify towards low emission businesses? The third one, how do we accelerate decarbonization? And the fourth, how do we deepen our TESG agenda? And all of this holistically encompassed in our goal of becoming a net zero carbon emitter by 2050. One of the main lessons that we've learned in this journey over the last couple of years is that innovation is not about technology. It's about people. That's why, as part of our corporate culture, we have the principle where in Ecopetrol, we make the impossible possible. And we do this by engaging with entrepreneurs from Colombia and across the world. I want to thank everybody in Plug and Play for this award. Jackie, Said, thanks for your continued support and providing us with a lot of lessons learned and best practices in this journey around innovation. And I also want to thank all my co-workers in Ecopetrol for being part of this process. We are convinced that working jointly with the best, we can continue to make the impossible possible towards a more sustainable energy future. Once again, thanks. We are thrilled and we are honored.
Thanks, Neda, and big congrats to Ecopetrol for their award. Working with them over the past few years and a year and a half has been super engaging, and we're really happy to be working with them on new decarbonization strategies. Again, thank you so much to all of our attendees, speakers, startups that presented today. In terms of our next events coming up, we will be hosting our Japan Clean Tech event with our Japanese corporate clients. This is a great event and will be open to external attendees, will be in English, so it's a great opportunity to check on what's going on in Japan and Asia. Our next expo happening in June 2022, apologies, will be in person again, and we welcome our corporate partners and friends to join us on what will hopefully be a fantastic edition with everyone back in person. Thanks for joining, everyone. It's been a pleasure hosting. Wishing you all a great week ahead, and please stay safe and healthy.